They said it was just a grave. But when the flame touched the skull, the entire cemetery woke up. What happened that night was never supposed to be seen again. And yet, every Halloween, the blue fire still burns. If you think you've heard every ghost story, you haven't heard this one. The ember that woke the dead. I still remember the smell of damp earth and cheap beer that clung to my jacket that night. I was 17, too young to know what real fear was, and too proud to admit I was scared of anything. My friends, Eli, Travis, and Ryan, were the same. We were the kind of idiots who thought legends were invitations. And Ashridge Cemetery, with its cracked statues and blackened angel wings, was the perfect stage for our stupidity. We went there every Halloween, not because we liked ghosts, but because no one else dared to. The gate was half fallen, wrapped in vines that looked like veins. Beyond it, the gravestones leaned at odd angles, like teeth rotting out of a jaw. The air was cold enough to bite through our hoodies. When you breathed, it came out in thick, white clouds that hung for too long, like the air itself was watching. Travis brought the liquor, cheap whiskey that burned like battery acid. Eli had a flashlight, Ryan carried a Bluetooth speaker, and I carried a lighter. We called it tradition. Light a small fire, drink, tell stories, and pretend we weren't standing on bones. That year, Eli suggested something new. "Let's do it by the crypt," he said, pointing to the far end of the graveyard. The crypt sat beneath an enormous oak, its stone door cracked open just enough to see darkness inside. The name carved above it, D. Holloway, 1831-1899, was half erased by moss. Locals said old Holloway was buried with a cursed bell around his neck, a superstition to warn the living if he ever woke. None of us believed it, but we liked how it sounded. We set up there. Ryan kicked away the dead leaves, I gathered sticks, Eli poured a little whiskey on the pile, and Travis flicked his lighter. The fire caught fast, burning orange against the black stones. Sparks rose into the air like tiny souls escaping. We drank and joked for a while. The whiskey made the world softer, the shadows less menacing. I remember Travis dancing around the fire, shouting, "Happy Halloween to the dead." The sound echoed across the graves. That's when I noticed it. The light from the fire was reflecting off something. The names on the nearby tombstones were glowing faintly red, as if heated from the inside. "Yo, you guys seeing this?" I asked. Eli squinted. "It's just the fire." "No," I said. "Look, they're glowing." The laughter died. We all stared at the stones. One by one, the carved letters brightened until they shimmered like molten iron. Ryan kicked dirt over the fire, but it didn't dim. The ground started to tremble, subtle at first, then stronger, like something deep below was shifting in its sleep. "Stop messing around," Eli said, but his voice cracked. "It's just the heat." The fire hissed, and for a second the flames turned black. Not smoke, actual black fire, like a hole in the air. The heat hit us in a single suffocating wave. Travis swore and kicked at it. The ground split beneath his foot with a dry crack. From the fissure came a sound I'll never forget. A gasp, long and hollow, like the earth itself had lungs. A burst of smoke erupted, thick and cold. But it wasn't smoke. It moved like it was alive, twisting upward until it shaped itself into a face. An open mouth, eyes hollow and burning red. Eli screamed. Ryan dropped the speaker, and it shattered against a headstone. I froze. The smoke face turned toward us. The air stank of sulfur and rot. Something whispered, but not in a voice. More like inside our heads. It said Travis's name. He stumbled backward, tripped, and fell hard. The ground beneath him pulsed like something was beating inside it. The cracks widened, glowing orange underneath. His scream tore through the graveyard as the soil around his body flared white-hot. We grabbed him, but the heat was unbearable. I swear I saw his skin blister in seconds. "Run," Eli shouted. I didn't argue. We bolted for the gate, tripping over graves and roots. Behind us, the crypt door slammed shut with a sound that shook the trees. When we looked back, the entire hillside was glowing, like the fire had gone underground, spreading beneath the graves. We didn't stop running until we hit the road. Ryan threw up. Eli just stared back toward the cemetery, face pale and trembling. I kept looking at my hands, expecting them to still be burning. The night was silent again. Too silent. Even the wind had stopped. We called the fire department. They searched the place but found nothing. No flames, no cracks, no sign of heat. Just ash circles burned into the ground near the crypt. They asked what happened, but none of us could explain without sounding insane. Travis was in shock, muttering, "It said my name," over and over. The next morning, he was gone. His parents thought he'd run away. We knew better. His shoes were still outside his door, covered in black dust that smelled faintly of smoke. A week later, Eli stopped coming to school. Then Ryan. Both of their houses caught fire within days of each other. The papers called it faulty wiring. I knew it wasn't. I was the only one left. I moved out of town after graduation, thinking distance would save me. For years it seemed to work. Then last Halloween, I woke up to the smell of smoke. My apartment was fine, but when I looked out the window, I saw a faint orange glow in the distance, like a fire burning underground. It pulsed, steady as a heartbeat. I went back to Ashridge yesterday. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see it. The gate was chained now, warning signs nailed across it. The grass was overgrown, brittle and gray. But near the crypt, the earth was still scorched, fresh, as if the fire had never gone out. I knelt beside the spot where we'd built our bonfire. The soil was warm beneath my palm. I swear I heard something faint, like a whisper under the dirt. It said my name. I stumbled back, heart pounding. The ground shuddered once, just once, like a giant exhaling. Then everything went still. The warmth faded. The whisper stopped. I ran before it could start again. Now, as I sit here writing this, the air smells faintly of ash. My fingers are blackened, though I haven't touched a thing. Outside my window, I can see a dull orange glow on the horizon, exactly where Ashridge Cemetery lies. I think the fire never died. I think it just waits, and tonight, it's calling me home. Ashes of the Caretaker. I never believed in curses. Not until I took the job at St. Wren's Cemetery. I was 26 then, broke and desperate for steady work. The listing said groundskeeper needed, maintenance, cleanup, night duties. It didn't mention that I'd be inheriting a legend, or that the last caretaker had vanished in a blaze that no one could explain. When I first arrived, the graveyard looked almost peaceful. Rows of crooked stones, tall oaks shedding brittle orange leaves, and a church so old its steeple leaned like a bent finger pointing at the sky. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, but there was something else beneath it, an acrid, faintly metallic tang that reminded me of burnt metal. Father Delaney, the parish priest, met me at the gate. He was old, gray-haired, and pale enough to look like he belonged among the tombstones. "You'll be the new caretaker," he said, though it sounded more like a question. "Yes, sir. Name's Caleb." He nodded almost reluctantly. "If you're staying here at night, don't wander near the west yard. It's where Silas worked." That was the first time I heard the name. Silas Greaves, the caretaker before me, the one who'd burned the leaves every Halloween until the night he supposedly burned with them. The town called him the Ashman now. Kids dared each other to sneak into the cemetery and leave cigarettes on his grave like offerings to some pyromaniac ghost. I didn't believe a word of it. Ghost stories always come with old places. For the first few weeks, nothing strange happened. I mowed the lawns, cleared the paths, trimmed the hedges. The job was quiet. Peaceful, even. The dead didn't complain. But then came Halloween. The wind that morning had teeth. It howled through the trees, scattering leaves across the headstones faster than I could rake them. The sky was low and gray, swollen with the promise of rain. I'd planned to finish early, but Father Delaney stopped me before I left the tool shed. "Lock the gates before dark," he said. "And whatever you do, don't burn anything tonight." I laughed. "You mean like Silas did?" He didn't smile. "I mean exactly like Silas did. When he left, the church bell struck 4, its echo rolling through the empty grounds like thunder trapped in a tunnel. I told myself the old man was superstitious, but part of me couldn't shake the unease curling in my gut. By dusk, the leaves had piled knee-deep around the west yard. the one corner I'd avoided. That's where Silas's grave was, near the burned remains of the old tool shed. I figured I'd at least tidy it up before the storm hit. The air grew heavy as I crossed the yard, thick with the scent of rain and rotting leaves. My boots squelched in the wet grass. Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the blackened outline of a shovel embedded in the soil, rusted and half-melted, like it had fused with the ground. I stopped beside it. Silas's headstone was cracked down the center. Someone had carved words into it that didn't belong to any prayer I knew. Fire remembers its maker. I knelt to brush the dirt from the letters, but the ground was warm, too warm. The kind of heat that rises from an oven when you open it. Probably left over from the fire, I muttered, though the blaze had been decades ago. Then the smell hit me. Smoke. Faint but unmistakable. I turned, and there it was, a small flickering flame on top of Silas's grave. No wood, no fuel, just a pale orange light dancing against the wind. Rain began to fall in heavy drops, but the flame didn't go out. I stared, mesmerized. The firelight cast long shadows through the headstones, bending and shifting as if alive. The air crackled softly, static dancing along my skin. Then I saw movement, through the shimmer of smoke. A shape took form, a man's silhouette, tall and thin, shoulders bent forward as if pushing a wheelbarrow. His head tilted toward me, and though I couldn't see his face, I swear I felt his eyes, hot, dry, and hollow. I blinked. The shape was gone. The flame still burned, my heart hammered. I grabbed the shovel, trying to smother the fire with dirt, but every scoop I threw only made the glow stronger, spreading across the grave like veins of molten light. The ground hissed and cracked, releasing bursts of steam that reeked of sulfur. Then came a whisper. Faint, rasping, buried under the sound of the rain. Leave it be. I stumbled back, slipping in the mud. Who's there? My voice cracked. Who's... The whisper came again, closer this time. It's my turn to tend the fire. The flame shot up, twisting into the shape of a man. His features flickered, cheekbones like coals, eyes hollow pits of fire. His clothes were the remains of an old uniform, burned through with a brass name tag barely visible beneath the soot. Silas. I couldn't move. My breath caught as he reached toward the shovel I'd dropped. His hand wrapped around the handle, and the metal glowed red-hot in his grip. You took my place, he said. His voice was the crackle of burning wood. The ground remembers. The heat hit me like a wave. The air shimmered, warping everything. My jacket began to smoke. I turned to run, but the grass beneath my boots smoldered, leaving black footprints behind with every step. I sprinted for the church, the rain pelting my face, steam rising from the earth in curling wisps. The bell tower loomed ahead. I reached the door just as thunder shook the sky and stopped. Behind me, the fire wasn't chasing. It was following, slow, deliberate, spreading in a perfect line from Silas's grave to the church gate, every flame pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. I forced the door open and stumbled inside. The air smelled of candle wax and smoke. Father Delaney was there, kneeling at the altar, whispering prayers under his breath. Father, the fire, I gasped. He looked up at me with hollow eyes. You saw him? I nodded, shaking. We have to leave. He didn't move. It's too late, he said softly. He only burns what's his. The words didn't make sense until I looked down. Black prints trailed behind me across the stone floor. My boots smoked. Father, what's happening? He backed away, clutching his rosary. He marked you. The smell of burning leather filled the air. My skin seared beneath my socks. I tore them off. My feet were blackened, the skin blistered like charred wood. The fire was spreading inside me. I screamed. The last thing I remember before everything went white was Silas standing in the doorway, flames coiling around him like serpents, his melted shovel gleaming in his hand. He smiled, or maybe the fire made it look that way. Then darkness. When I woke, it was morning. The church was untouched. The graveyard silent. No flames, no smoke, no sign of Silas, but my footprints were still there, burned deep into the stone steps leading to the altar. They've never faded. Every Halloween since, I've gone back to that grave, hoping to see him again. And every year the flame still burns, small, steady, waiting. When the wind hits right, I swear it whispers my name, because the fire remembers. The candle line, I've spent the last 3 years trying to forget what happened that night. But every Halloween, when the wind shifts and I smell wax and smoke, I see the circle again. I see their silhouettes in the fire. And sometimes if I stare long enough, I swear one of them turns toward me. My name's Jordan. I used to run a small paranormal channel on YouTube called Spectre Seekers. We were nobodies back then. 6,000 subscribers, half of them probably bots. But we were hungry for views, desperate for something viral. So when a local legend started circulating about the graveyard that burns itself, we knew we had to film there. The place was called Black Hollow Cemetery, an overgrown patch of forgotten graves behind an abandoned church. The town fenced it off after a supposed chemical fire in 2011, but every Halloween, locals claimed to see an orange glow through the trees. Some said it was swamp gas, others said devil worship. We said content. There were 5 of us that night. Me, our cameraman Ben, sisters Lacey and Tara, who handled ghost tech and social media, and Chris, our skeptic. He was loud, brash, and good for arguments on camera. We arrived just before sunset, the air heavy with the smell of wet leaves and rain. The trees dripped from an earlier storm, each drop tapping the fence with metallic rhythm. Inside, the ground was soggy, sucking at our boots as we climbed through a hole we'd cut in the chain link. Black Hollow didn't feel right. It wasn't just creepy, it was wrong. The graves were old, some sunken, most cracked. A chill hung there, colder than the autumn air. I remember the way the shadows seemed thicker around the trees, how even our flashlights felt dim. "This is perfect," Lacey whispered, setting down her pack. "We'll light the candles just before midnight." She had this idea, a ritual she'd found online. "Summoning spirits of fire," she said. Sounded like nonsense, but it looked cinematic. 50 red candles forming a perfect circle around the oldest part of the graveyard. We filmed the setup, joked around, tried to ignore how quiet it had gotten. No wind, no insects. Even the frogs had stopped croaking. The silence pressed on my ears until I could hear my own heartbeat. At 11:57 p.m., we started lighting the candles. The wicks hissed in the damp air, but each flame caught, small orange stars flickering in the dark. When the last one was lit, Lacey stepped back and smiled. The circle glowed softly, reflected in the marble slabs of forgotten tombs. Then she said the words. I don't know where she got them, some ancient prayer, maybe Latin, maybe fake. Her voice trembled as she spoke. The flames danced higher. Ben laughed behind the camera. It's working. Look at that. But the flames weren't moving with the wind. They were moving together, leaning toward the center of the circle, as if drawn by something invisible. Chris rolled his eyes. Probably air pressure, he didn't finish. The air snapped like static. Every candle flared at once, bright enough to sting my eyes. Then a low hum filled the space, vibrating in my bones. Turn that off, I hissed at Ben. It's not me, he whispered. The sound wasn't coming from our gear. It was coming from the ground. The earth inside the circle started to shimmer. The grass wilted and turned black. A faint orange glow bled through the soil, like something burning beneath us. Lacey stepped closer, mesmerized. Do you feel that heat? Lace, stop! Tara reached for her, but it was too late. A sudden gust of wind burst from the circle, blowing out half the candles, and then reigniting them in a split second, their flames roaring higher than before. The circle was no longer gentle candlelight. It was a ring of fire. Back up, I shouted, grabbing Lacey's arm. The air was scorching, the heat pressing against my face like an open oven. The hum became a growl, deep and rhythmic, like something breathing. The fire twisted upward, forming shapes, 8 of them. Human-sized, flickering figures made entirely of flame. They moved with eerie precision, stepping in a slow, synchronized pattern, like dancers caught mid-ritual. Ben's camera light flickered. Jesus Christ, he whispered. Are those people? The shapes turned toward us, faceless yet aware. The flames pulsed brighter, and for a moment, I saw through them, bones, ribs, hands reaching out of fire. Chris bolted for the gap in the circle. The instant he crossed it, a pillar of flame shot up in front of him. He screamed, stumbling back, clutching his arm. The skin was blistered, smoking. Run around, I yelled. Go around. But every direction looked the same. The fire formed a perfect wall now, trapping us inside. The oxygen thinned. My lungs burned. Tara was crying, clutching her sister. Ben kept filming, I don't know why. Maybe instinct, maybe madness. The figures inside the circle began moving faster, their steps pounding in sync with the heartbeat thudding in my ears. The ground trembled. Cracks split open beneath the graves, leaking orange light. Then the camera exploded. The flash blinded me for a second. When my vision cleared, Ben was gone. Just gone. The camera lay melted into the dirt, still smoking. Lacey screamed his name. The figures turned toward her, their heads tilting in unison. I swear I heard a voice in that moment. Not from them, from the fire itself. Join the circle. The flames expanded, closing in. Tara fainted. I grabbed her, dragged her toward the fence. The heat seared my hands, my jacket catching fire. I rolled her in the mud, slapped the flames out. The roar behind me grew deafening. I looked back once and saw them. 8 shapes now. There had only been 7 before. The 8th one was Ben. His outline burned brighter than the rest, his face half visible inside the fire. His mouth opened in a soundless scream. Something broke then. The ring collapsed inward, swallowing itself. I felt the shock wave of heat and light, then darkness. When I woke up, it was dawn. The fire was gone. The candles had melted into tiny red puddles. Every camera, every tripod, every piece of gear, gone. Only the faint prints of our boots remained in the dirt, leading nowhere. The firefighters said there was no sign of anyone else. They found my friends' IDs near the graves, but no bodies. Just blackened soil that steamed even in the rain. I was the only survivor. They sealed the place a week later, welded the gate shut. But every Halloween, people still call the cops about lights in the woods. When they check, they see nothing, just scorched earth. I saw it myself last year. From the hilltop, through the trees, that faint orange glow flickered in a perfect circle. And inside it, silhouettes, 8 of them, moving slow, turning. I counted. Then I realized there was a 9th. One figure stood outside the ring this time, smaller, darker, watching the others, watching me. Whispers in the smoke. I always believed that cemeteries were the quietest places on earth, until the night I heard one breathe. My name is Mara, and I'm a photographer, not the kind that shoots weddings or portraits. I take pictures of things people avoid: empty hospitals, derelict houses, forgotten graves. I like silence, stillness. There's a strange beauty in decay, and the camera captures what the eyes can't. The Blackthorn Cemetery had been on my list for years. It sat on a hill just outside of Hollow Bend, fenced off by rusted iron and choked in fog. The locals said it was cursed, that the family buried there never truly went cold. The story went that every Halloween, candles appeared on their graves, lit by no one, burning without wax, glowing until dawn. It was exactly the kind of rumor I lived for. Halloween night, I packed my gear: a vintage Nikon FM2, a roll of black and white film, flashlight, and a thermos of coffee. The drive out was long and quiet, the road slick with rain. I parked near the gate around 11:30. My breath steamed in. The cold air and the fog was thick enough to feel like fabric brushing against my face. When I stepped inside, the crunch of gravel under my boots echoed far too loudly. The place smelled of damp moss and old smoke, though there hadn't been a fire in decades. The graves came into view one by one, old stones leaning at strange angles, their inscriptions worn to near illegibility. And then, at the far end of the hill, I saw them. 4 candles, perfectly aligned in front of 4 graves, their flames swaying but never dying, even as the wind picked up. I remember whispering to myself, "Gotcha." I set up the tripod, framed the shot, and began clicking. The light was beautiful, soft orange glow against cracked marble. I adjusted for long exposure to catch the smoke trails curling upward. The whole time, I felt oddly calm. No ghosts, no fear, just me, the night, and my art. But when I took the last photo, something strange happened. The air shifted. A warm gust brushed my face. Warm, not cold. And it carried the scent of burnt wood and something sweeter, like candle wax melting over skin. Then came the whisper. It was so faint I thought it was wind at first. A sigh. But it wasn't just air moving. It was words. Dozens of them, layered over each other, like many voices trying to speak at once. I couldn't make out what they said, only that they were near, right beside me, circling. I turned off my flashlight. Bad idea. The darkness felt alive. The candles flickered, and for the briefest second, I thought I saw shapes in the smoke. Faces, twisted and wide-eyed, mouths open in silent screams. I blinked, and they were gone. Just pareidolia, I told myself. Smoke and imagination. I finished the roll and left before midnight, trying to shake the unease that clung to my skin like static. Back home, I developed the film in my tiny darkroom. It was after 2 a.m. when the images began to appear in the tray, and my stomach dropped. Every photo showed the same thing. Not candles, not graves, not fog. Faces. Dozens, maybe hundreds, rising from the smoke. They weren't blurry or abstract. They were detailed. Eyes, mouths, twisted expressions of agony. Some with teeth bared, others frozen mid-scream. One looked directly at the camera. I remember stepping back, nearly knocking over the developer chemicals. My pulse thundered in my ears. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. The faces were still there, and behind them, faint but visible, was another image, something that hadn't been in front of my lens. A silhouette, a person standing beside the graves. Someone had been there with me. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of exposure, double image, film defect, anything logical. But the voice in my head whispered something else. Go back. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I drove back to Blackthorn with my camera again, desperate to prove it was nothing more than a glitch. The fog hadn't lifted. The gate hung open, just as I'd left it. My boots squished through the wet grass as I made my way to the Blackthorn graves. The candles were gone, but the ground where they had burned was black, freshly scorched, the earth still smoking faintly. I crouched and touched the soil. It was warm, too warm. I pulled my hand away, and the smell of burnt wax lingered on my fingers. I lifted the camera, snapped one picture, then another. The shutter clicked, the sound sharp in the silence. Then I heard it again, the whisper, louder this time, close. Mara. It said my name. I froze, the camera trembling in my hands. Who's there? Nothing. Only the creak of the iron fence behind me. I turned. Through the fog, I saw a shape standing near the gate, tall, thin, unmoving. My breath caught. Hello? The figure didn't answer. It took one slow step forward. The air shimmered around it, waves of heat rising off its outline like a mirage. My camera clicked again, unprompted. The flash fired, blinding me for a second, and when my vision cleared, the shape was gone. But the whisper hadn't stopped. It surrounded me, crawling into my ears, under my skin, dozens of voices murmuring in rhythm, like a chant. Stay. Stay. The air grew suffocating. The warmth turned to heat, unbearable, as if I were kneeling beside an open furnace. I stumbled back, tripping over a headstone. The grass was burning beneath me now, tiny orange tongues licking upward. I ran. The whisper followed, weaving through the crackle of fire. My lungs burned, my eyes stung. I didn't look back until I reached the gate, and even then, I wished I hadn't. The entire Blackthorn plot was aflame, but not like any fire I'd ever seen. The flames were pale, almost white, spiraling upward in smooth, elegant patterns. Inside them, I saw movement, faces, hundreds of them, drifting in the smoke, screaming without sound, and in the center of it all stood the silhouette again. Still, watching. I dropped my camera and ran. By morning, the fire had vanished. The police found nothing, no scorch marks, no smoke, not even candle wax. They found my camera, though. The lens had cracked from the inside, the film melted to ash. They said I was lucky, that I'd imagined the rest. But I can still smell it. The wax, the smoke, the sweetness of burning skin. And every Halloween since, I drive past Blackthorn Cemetery. The gates are chained now, but from the road, I can still see the graves through the trees. And every year without fail, there's a single candle burning on the smallest grave. It never flickers. It never goes out. And sometimes when I stop long enough to watch, I swear the smoke spells my name. The fire beneath, I'm not a man who scares easy. I've worked construction my whole life. Bridges, roads, tunnels. You see enough weird things buried under the ground and you stop asking questions. But what we found under Hollow Bend Cemetery, that's something I can't forget. I can still smell it when the wind shifts. My name's Dean Holloway. I was part of the crew that expanded the old cemetery road back in 2008. The town wanted easier access for funeral processions. Something respectful and modern. We didn't think twice about digging near the edge of the graveyard. Dirt's dirt, right? The first few days were routine. Tree clearing, trenching, setting concrete forms. But by the end of the week, our excavator hit something strange. It wasn't stone and it wasn't soil either. It was black, deep, greasy black, and it moved. When the shovel pulled back, it left a faint glow behind, like embers under ash. Coal vein, our foreman said, but his voice didn't sound convinced. We tried to douse it with water. The steam hissed up so hot it burned one guy's arm through his jacket. We poured more, still glowed. By the next morning, the pit was smoking again. No flame, just a low, constant exhale of heat, like the earth was breathing. The town inspector ordered us to cover it. Seal it off, he said. Pour concrète. Don't tell the families, so we did. Poured 2 truckloads straight into the hole. The surface steamed for hours, but finally it cooled. We all went home that night thinking the problem was buried for good, but it wasn't. Halloween fell 3 days later. That night I was home with my wife and daughter. Around 11:30, the ground started trembling. At first, I thought it was a minor quake, nothing new for our area, but then I heard it. A deep, hollow groan that rolled under the floorboards. My phone buzzed. It was Eddie, one of the guys from the crew. His voice was shaking.
Dean, you seeing this?
Seeing what? Get outside. I stepped onto my porch and froze. The whole sky above the cemetery was glowing orange, not flickering like firelight, pulsing, breathing. I jumped in my truck and tore up the hill toward the site. Half the town was already gathered by the fence. People were pointing, shouting. The heat hit me before I even stopped the truck, a dry metallic heat that made my skin crawl. The concrete slab we'd poured was cracking open. Thick lines split the surface, glowing red from underneath. Then, with a sound like thunder, one of the slabs heaved upward and fire burst out in a column. Straight into the night. Someone screamed. We ran. The air was too hot to breathe, but I couldn't take my eyes off the graves. The heat spread beneath them, each headstone glowing from the base, veins of light spidering through the ground like molten roots. And then, the tombstones began to move. Not fall, lift slowly, like something was pushing them up from below. One after another, marble slabs rose, hovering for a second before tipping over, revealing dark holes beneath. I saw shapes moving in those holes, pale, twisting forms that vanished as the fire flared brighter. Eddie grabbed my shoulder.
Dean, we gotta go.
The grounds, he didn't finish. The dirt under his feet split and he dropped like a stone. The crack sealed behind him in an instant. I'll never forget the sound he made. A sharp gasp, then nothing. Just silence. The rest of us scrambled back toward the gate. The heat chased us, licking at our heels. I swear I felt fingers brush my ankle, hot as iron. By dawn, the fire was gone. Not a single flame, not a wisp of smoke. But the ground was blackened in a perfect circle, as if something had burned its way out and left everything else untouched. Eddie's body was never found. They blamed a gas pocket, said the soil composition was unstable. The town poured another concrete cap, thicker this time. They built a stone barrier around the graves, installed warning signs. Do not enter, unstable ground. But none of that stopped it. Every year since, around Halloween, people see it again. Not a blaze, just faint orange light under the soil. Sometimes it flickers in a slow rhythm like breathing. Other times it moves, crawling beneath the graves, tracing invisible paths. I went back once, about 2 years after the fire. I told myself I needed closure, but really I just couldn't stop thinking about Eddie. It was past midnight. The cemetery was empty. The air was warm, unnaturally so, and the ground beneath my boots felt soft, like there was something shifting under it. I crouched near the old construction site, pressed my hand against the soil. It pulsed. Once, twice, then a whisper. So faint I thought it was wind at first. Let us breathe. I stumbled back, flashlight shaking in my hand. The ground bulged just slightly, and a thin line of smoke seeped through the cracks. The smell hit me, sulfur, whetstone, and something else. Something rotten, and then for a split second, I saw light beneath the dirt, not orange, but white hot. It moved fast, like something crawling right under the surface. It darted toward me, stopped at my boots. I ran. I don't even remember getting back to my truck. Since then, I don't go near that place. No one does. The cemetery's sealed now, fenced with steel and barbed wire, but people still talk. Last Halloween, a couple of kids snuck in. They posted a video before it got pulled offline. It was shaky, grainy footage, but you can still see it clear as day. The earth rising and falling like lungs. Cracks glowing beneath their feet. One of the kids laughs nervously, says it's a geothermal vent. Then his friend points at the ground and whispers, "Dean." It's moving toward us. The clip cuts there. The police found their phones near the gate the next morning. No trace of the boys. Just 2 sets of footprints burned into the grass. Black, perfectly outlined, as if they'd stood on coals, sometimes on quiet nights. I think I can still hear it. A low hum under the ground, steady and deep, like the heartbeat of something waiting. And when the wind shifts, carrying that same scorched smell through town. I know it's not done yet. Whatever's down there, it's still breathing, still hungry for air. The Bonfire of the Forgotten. I grew up in Hollow Ridge, a small town tucked between the hills, the kind of place that smells like wood smoke and old rain. Most of us didn't have much, but we had each other. We had bonfires, stories, and secrets. And one of those secrets was the graveyard of strays. It wasn't a real cemetery, not officially. It was a patch of uneven land behind the ridge, overgrown with weeds and wild thorns. The kind of place dogs refused to go near. My grandmother used to say it was where the unclaimed souls were buried. Drifters, beggars, people who died without family or name. The town buried them there quietly, years ago, with no prayers and no markers. Just mounds of dirt and silence. When I was a kid, no one talked about Hollow Ridge after dark. But by the time I turned 20, the town had changed. The old generation was dying off, and people wanted to prove the superstitions were just stories. So when Halloween rolled around that year, a few of us, young, dumb, and drunk, decided to hold a bonfire out there. There were 10 of us. We brought cheap whiskey, old furniture, and even a few discarded coffins from the storage shed behind the church. The wooden ones, splintered, warped, too rotten for use. It was meant to be symbolic, someone said. A cleansing fire. I remember how cold it was that night. The kind of cold that numbs your fingers but still lets sweat trickle down your back. The moon was full, fat and yellow, and the ridge was quiet except for the crunch of leaves under our boots. We built the bonfire in the center of the field. The air was damp, heavy with the smell of earth and rot. When the first coffin caught flame, the wood didn't crackle like it should have. It hissed, deep and low, as if it resented burning. Still, we laughed. The fire climbed high, painting the trees orange, our shadows long and thin against the graves. The heat licked our faces, and for a moment it felt almost holy, like we were doing something ancient and powerful. Then the smell changed. At first I thought it was just the rotted wood. But the longer the fire burned, the more wrong it became. It was acrid, sweet, like burning hair and fat. The smoke was thick and greasy, clinging to our clothes, our skin. I could taste it. Lena, one of the girls, gagged and stepped back. "It smells like—" She didn't finish. The fire twisted, bent in the wind, but there was no wind. The flames leaned toward her like they were reaching. The light flickered, and for a split second, I saw something inside it. Faces. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Twisting, melting, screaming without sound. Someone shouted that it was a trick of the light. Someone else laughed too loudly, too nervously. But I couldn't take my eyes off those shapes. They looked real. The fire began to roar, louder than it should have, drowning out every voice. Sparks rained down like fiery snow, stinging our arms. The ground shook beneath us, and a deep hum vibrated through my chest. Then, just as suddenly, the flames went out. No smoke, no ember, no glow. Just darkness. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The night was too quiet. The air reeked of burnt meat and something older, something metallic, like blood on rust. "Light something," I whispered. Tom fumbled with his phone flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, and I wish it hadn't. The ashes had settled into shapes. Faces, hundreds of them, pressed into the ground, mouths open in silent screams. Their eyes, or where their eyes should have been, glistened faintly, reflecting the moonlight. Lena screamed. Everyone ran at once. I stumbled over a root and nearly fell face first into one of the ashen faces. The moment my hand touched the ground, it was warm, still breathing. I didn't stop running until I reached the edge of town. By morning, the ridge was quiet again. The field looked normal. No ashes, no faces, no sign of the bonfire. But the people who had been there with me, they were gone. Every single one of them. 10 of us went up there. I was the only one who came back. The police searched for days. Dogs, drones, local volunteers. They found nothing. The only thing they did find, a week later, were new gravestones. 10 of them. Lined up perfectly in the center of the ridge. Each one had a name carved into it. Our names. Mine was there too. They were rough, uneven letters, like someone had scratched them by hand. The stone was fresh, cold. My name, Dean Rowe, gleamed in the moonlight. Beneath it, the date of that night. October 31st, I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't. For a while, I convinced myself it was a prank, some sick joke by one of the others. But the next Halloween, the ridge burned again. I didn't go. But I saw it from my window, a tall, flickering pillar of fire at the edge of town. I could hear something faint under the wind. Not voices exactly, but cries, soft and distant, like the sound of people trapped underground. By morning, the fire was gone, but the smell lingered. That thick, oily scent of burnt flesh. The townsfolk pretended not to notice. They always do. It's been 12 years. I don't talk about it anymore. I moved away, changed jobs, tried to bury it. But every Halloween, no matter where I go, I can smell it again, that same sweet, greasy burn in the air. And sometimes, if I'm outside after midnight, I see faint shapes in the dark, faces flickering in the corners of my vision, half-formed, smoldering like coals. I know it's them, the ones who burned that night. Sometimes I wonder if they're angry I lived. Or maybe it's worse. Maybe they want me to finish what we started. To cleanse the rest of the forgotten. Last night I woke up to light coming through my window, orange, flickering light. The kind that dances, the kind that breathes. I got up trembling and looked outside. There was a fire at the edge of my yard. A perfect round fire, small but alive. And there, in the smoke, faces. I'm not going back to Hollow Ridge. I know what waits there. But no matter where I go, the fire finds me, and sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still hear them whispering from the ashes. My name, slow and burned into the dark. Dean, stay with us. The smell of smoke never leaves me now. It's in my clothes, my hair, my skin, and when I breathe out, I swear the air comes back warm. The Churchyard Inferno, my name's Caleb Morin, and I was the groundskeeper at St. Morrigan's Church for almost 12 years. I took the job because it was quiet, steady work, trimming hedges, maintaining headstones, keeping vandals away from the old graves. The church itself was ancient, rebuilt in 1999 after a fire a century earlier. They never talked much about the original blaze, only that it was an act of God. When I started, Father Donnelly gave me a tour of the grounds. He was an old man, thin as paper, eyes like fading glass. He pointed out the new graves, the family plots, and finally the older section. A cluster of crooked stones surrounded by rusted iron fencing. That's the original churchyard, he said. You'll see black marks on some of the stones. Don't clean them. They're meant to stay. I thought he was joking. When I got closer, I saw what he meant. Several headstones bore a crude black X, faded but still visible beneath the lichen. What are they for? I asked. He hesitated. Those are the graves that burned in 1899. Best you don't linger there after dark. I laughed, but his face didn't change. The first few months were uneventful. I came to know the place well. Every tree root, every bird call, the sound of the old chapel bell creaking in the wind. But even then, there were small things that didn't sit right. Sometimes, early in the morning, I'd find the soil disturbed around those black-marked graves, as if something had shifted underneath. The dirt would be warm to the touch, even when the rest of the ground was frozen. I told myself it was just the sun or burrowing animals. But animals don't move in straight lines and they don't leave scorch marks. Then came Halloween. That year, the forecast called for storms, thunder rolling low over the valley. I stayed late locking up after the evening service. The air smelled of ozone and damp wood. The sky was a bruised purple, pulsing with flashes of light behind the clouds. As I crossed the churchyard to the tool shed, I saw it, a faint orange shimmer along the ground. At first, I thought it was just lightning reflecting on the wet grass. But it wasn't. It was fire. Thin lines of flame snaked across the soil, deliberate, forming paths that twisted and turned between the graves. They didn't burn upward like normal fire. They crawled, slow and alive, curling around tombstones as if searching. My first thought was gas, maybe a leak, something chemical under the soil. But there was no smell of fuel, no heat in the air, only that sharp electric scent, like copper and storm water. I stepped closer, and the nearest flame turned. It turned. The fire shifted direction, crawling toward me, the grass hissing as it passed. My breath hitched. I stumbled back, kicking wet leaves onto the flame, but they didn't smother it. The leaves just dissolved, and then I saw them. The black-marked graves, every one of them, were outlined in fire. Perfect rectangles glowing like molten steel. Inside the outlines, the earth pulsed. "Lord, help me," I whispered. From the chapel door, I heard Father Donnelly's voice. He was shouting something, his Bible clutched in one hand, his robe flapping in the wind. He raised a silver crucifix toward the flames. "In the name of Christ, be still." The fire seemed to pause, just for a heartbeat, then surged forward. It wrapped around his feet. His robe ignited instantly, orange light swallowing him whole. He screamed once, high and awful, before collapsing into the dirt. I froze. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. The flames didn't spread beyond the churchyard. They stayed within the fence, weaving from one marked grave to the next, deliberate, rhythmic. I swear I heard whispering, dozens of overlapping voices hissing from beneath the soil. I ran. When I finally looked back from the road, the church was still there, unburned. The fire had vanished completely. By the time the police arrived, there was no trace of it. Father Donnelly's body was never found, only a circle of blackened earth where he'd stood. The diocese called it lightning. Said the old man was struck during the storm. They shut the church down for investigation, then quietly reopened it a month later under new leadership. But I couldn't forget what I saw. For weeks I dreamed of those flames crawling toward me. Sometimes I'd wake up with my sheets damp, smelling faintly of smoke. My hands ached, the skin dry and cracked like I'd held them too close to a fire. I told myself to move on, until the following Halloween. That night I drove past St. Morrigan's out of morbid curiosity. It was late, close to midnight, and the storm clouds had returned. The same low thunder, the same flickering sky, and there it was again, faint orange lines glowing across the churchyard, tracing the same patterns I'd seen before. The same graves. I parked on the hill and watched. The fire didn't move this time. It just outlined the graves, each one burning with a dull, steady light. For a moment it was almost beautiful, like lanterns in the dark. Then I realized the flames weren't flickering randomly. They were forming shapes, faces, eyes, mouths. Every black-marked grave had a face of fire hovering above it, twisted and screaming in silence. The flames wavered as if something beneath the soil was pushing upward. The whispering started again, faint, rhythmic, echoing even through the glass of my truck. I couldn't make out the words, but it wasn't random. It was chanting, and then lightning struck. It hit the steeple with a deafening crack, blinding white light filling the air. When my vision cleared, the flames were gone. But something new glowed where the church stood. Symbols. Hundreds of small black X marks burned into the walls, smoking faintly in the rain. I drove home shaking, heart pounding. I told no one. The next morning I quit my job. I left Hollow Ridge altogether. But even now, years later, I hear things. Whispers in storms, faint crackling sounds when lightning flashes. A few weeks ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just a single line written in ash-gray ink. They were never forgiven. That night, it stormed again. I looked out my window and for a moment, just a flicker, I saw orange light crawling through the fields. I can't go back to St. Morrigan's, not ever. Because whatever that fire was, it wasn't lightning. It was alive, and I think it remembers me. The Lantern Grave. My name is Aaron Vale. I grew up in Hollow Creek, a place most people pass through without a second glance. We had one grocery store, a rusted water tower, and a graveyard older than the town itself. Every kid in Hollow Creek knew the stories about that graveyard, especially one in particular, the Lantern Grave. It was an unmarked plot near the back fence, where the ground dipped and the air always smelled faintly of sulfur. They said a skull sat half buried there, glowing with blue light every Halloween night. Some said it was witchcraft. Others said it was the grave of a murderer, cursed to burn for eternity. When I was 13, I didn't believe any of it. Ghost stories were just a way for parents to keep us from sneaking into the cemetery at night. But my best friend Tommy Finch loved to test those stories. He had a streak of recklessness that drew people in. The kind of kid who would grin right before doing something stupid. Halloween night. 2012, he decided to debunk the Lantern Grave once and for all. I still remember the way he said it, smirking in the orange light of his jack-o'-lantern. If the skull glows, I'll kiss the ground. If it doesn't, you owe me your Snickers. We met at midnight behind the old fence, flashlights in hand. The air was thick with mist, the kind that clung to your clothes and turned breath into steam. Somewhere far off, thunder rumbled, but the sky was clear, not a drop of rain in sight. The cemetery gate creaked when I pushed it open. It sounded almost alive, like a warning sigh. The others, 3 of us that night, followed Tommy down the uneven path, gravel crunching beneath our shoes. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. No crickets, no wind, just the dull hum of silence pressing against our ears. Tommy led us to the far corner, near a cluster of leaning stones. The air there was colder. My flashlight beam caught on something pale in the dirt, a curved shape, smooth and unmistakable, a skull, half buried, like it was trying to crawl its way out. "There it is," Tommy said, voice steady but tight. "The famous Lantern Grave." He crouched beside it, pulling a cheap plastic lighter from his pocket, one of those transparent ones with the flickering red wheel. "Don't," I muttered. "Let's just go. Relax," he said, grinning. "It's just bones." Probably fake. He flicked the lighter once, a spark, then nothing. Again, a weak flame that danced in the wind. Then the third time it caught. That's when everything went wrong. The flame flared bright blue, unnatural, electric, and jumped from his hand like it had a mind of its own. It hit the ground, splitting into branching streams of fire that raced across the soil, tracing cracks between headstones. We stumbled back, shouting, as the fire spread without heat, without smoke. Just this silent, crawling glow that painted the world in cold sapphire light. Tommy dropped the lighter, but the flame didn't stop. It leapt from grave to grave, wrapping around the skull. I swear I heard something exhale, a deep, dry sigh that came from inside the earth. Then Tommy screamed. He clutched his face, stumbling backward, eyes wide, and that's when I saw it. His pupils burned like tiny candles, 2 perfect flames flickering in his sockets. He fell to his knees, sobbing, the blue light reflecting off his tears. "Put it out!" I shouted, but there was nothing to put out. No smoke, no fuel. The ground burned on its own. We ran. I didn't look back until we hit the streetlights. When I did, I saw that the fire wasn't spreading anymore. It had circled one grave, the Finch family plot, and stopped. A perfect ring of blue flame, burning silently in the dark. By the time the police came, Tommy was still alive, but barely speaking. His eyes were blackened around the edges, yet those faint blue embers still flickered in the sockets. The doctors couldn't explain it. No burns, no blindness, just light. They sedated him and transferred him to St. Mary's Asylum 3 towns over. I visited once, 6 months later. He didn't look at me. He just rocked slowly in the chair, mumbling to himself. When I leaned closer, I caught the words. It wasn't me who lit it. It was them. He said it over and over, voice cracking, as if the sentence itself hurt. I left after 5 minutes. I couldn't stand the sound. Years passed. The graveyard was fenced off after the incident, but kids still snuck in. Some claimed to see a faint blue shimmer in the Finch plot around Halloween, but no one went near it. I moved away after college, tried to forget. Then last year, I got a call from my mother. She sounded shaken. "They're saying the fire's back," she whispered. Blue lights above the graves again. I drove home the next day, couldn't help myself. Curiosity, guilt, I don't know. The cemetery hadn't changed much, just more overgrown. The Finch graves were near the back, where the fog hung thick and low. And sure enough, it was there, a soft blue glow rising from the ground, pulsing like breath. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. My flashlight dimmed, flickered, and died. Then I saw movement. The skull, the same one, had surfaced completely now. It wasn't buried anymore. It sat upright facing me, jaw slightly open like it was waiting to speak. The flames coiled around it like ribbons, licking the empty sockets. Something inside the fire shimmered. A reflection maybe, but it looked like faces. Dozens of them, blurred, shifting, whispering behind the flames. I took a step back, heart hammering. The air smelled like burnt metal and rain. My breath fogged in the cold, and somewhere beneath it all, I heard that same dry sigh again, closer this time. I ran before I could see what followed. When I got home, my clothes reeked of smoke, though the fire had never touched me. That night I woke to the faint sound of whispering outside my window. I looked out, and for half a second I saw it, a tiny blue flicker hovering above the grass. I blinked, and it was gone. The next morning I checked the news. They found another body in Hollow Creek, a local teen, burned alive near the old fence. The police said it was vandalism gone wrong, some kind of chemical reaction. But when I saw the photo, my stomach dropped. The fire around him had burned cold. They said his eyes were still open and glowing faintly blue. Now every Halloween, I leave town. I can't stand being anywhere near open fields or old stones. But sometimes, when the night is quiet, I catch the faint smell of sulfur on the wind, and I know it's starting again. Because whatever happened at that grave, it wasn't a trick of fire. It was a calling. And one day, I think it'll remember the boy who ran. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying tales every week. Comment below, would you dare visit the lantern grave on Halloween night? Turn on the notification bell so the next horror finds you before you find it.